Well, good evening, family. Good evening. It's Monday. Welcome to Empowerment Monday with yours truly, Prophet C.T. Johnson. I am so excited to be back with you once again to empower your thinking so that you can change your life as well as positively and effectively, impactfully change the lives of others. So as you come in tonight, say hello to me that I may say hello to you. And as you come in, you know the drill. Facebook, I need for you to hit that like button. I need for you to like the video. I need for you to follow the ministry's Facebook page. Hit the like button and then hit the follow button and become a part of the C.T. Johnson Ministries Facebook family. And then, of course, to our YouTube family, greetings to you as you come in. I need for you to also hit the like button known as the thumbs up. Hit that button as well as the subscribe button over there on YouTube so that you'll receive notification every time we are live on YouTube and or new content is uploaded. And for both social media platforms, I need for you to share, and share, and share, and that's it. Share. And again, good evening to you all. Miss Jody, Miss Patricia, Mother Mitchell, Lady J, to all of you that are coming in, greetings to you. Pastor Robinson, greetings to you, my friend, my brother. I trust that you and Lady Robinson are well. So, all right, come on in, and we're going to dive in to this is part 2 of our subtopic, pedophile statistics and facts. It is also part 5 of our 5-week overall series dealing with or I should say exposing the agenda to I'm losing my train of thought here. We are in week 5 as it pertains to the agenda to legalize, to normalize pedophilia, And as I have been saying from the beginning of our teaching series, legalization is the result of normalization. So we are in week 5 of our overall subject matter dealing with the agenda to normalize pedophilia. Last week, we entered into a subtopic dealing with pedophile statistics and facts. And if you were not with us on last week, I admonish you to go back either on YouTube or our Facebook page and watch last week's teaching, watch really episode teaching as well, but watch last week's episode as we embarked on this subtopic of pedophile statistics and facts. And the purpose of the entire series, I did not intend for this to become a series. However, I'm just rolling with the instructions of the Lord. But the purpose of this is not to promote fear. I want to say that, and I'm going to continue saying that at the beginning of each broadcast as we are forging forward in this subject matter, because I do not want you all to allow what I'm sharing, what I am providing you by way of information to promote the spirit of fear, to implant, to root, to insert the spirit of fear. We are cerebral. We are thinkers as our God is. And so this information is being shared so that you can be informed, so that you can be enlightened, so that you can come out of the dark as it pertains, not only the dark, come out the closet, pull your head out of the proverbial sand and all of that, but this information, I'm sharing this information, I'm engaged in this particular subject matter to bring you into the reality of the damnable satanic plot and agenda, and what I've been calling it really hell's stratagem to attack, not only attack, but literally to destroy the future generations, which are our children. And so I need for you again to share and stick with me tonight. Every broadcast has been building upon the other. So I need for you to go back and watch last week so that you can be caught up with where we are continuing to go tonight, dealing with pedophile statistics and facts. And so I am again bringing you into this awareness, bringing you into this reality, an unfortunate reality, a frightening reality, but it's a reality nonetheless. And not only am I on this subject to inform, to enlighten, to bring awareness, but so that we can strategically pray, target this spirit, target this community known as MAP, minor attracted persons. But as I've been sharing with you, I'm calling it what it is, the pedophile community, because a part of this agenda, a part of the strategy of this agenda, part of the tactic of this agenda is, again, one, to normalize us to this damnable behavior, but also to change the language, to introduce us to new terminology as it pertains to the pedophile community. They don't want you to call it pedophilia. They don't want you to say pedophile. They want you to embrace the sophistry that they are baiting you with, according, or rather in regards to MAP, the acronym for minor attracted persons. Well, that sickens me every time I say it, every time I repeat it. And then there's another acronym for MAP, which is no MAP, which stands for non-offensive minor attracted persons. And as I've been saying, y'all stick with me. I'm about to get into what we're getting into. I'm just recapping and making sure that you are understanding God's purpose for why we are on this journey. But non-offensive, I should say, non-offensive minor attracted persons. Those words don't even go together. How is an adult being attracted to a minor non-offensive? I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. All right, now let's move forward. We are again on this journey of pedophile statistics and facts, subtopic under our overall subject matter, exposing the agenda to normalize pedophilia. Now, we're going to pick right up where we left off. I had a video that I wanted to show you tonight, but I was not able to work out the technical challenges that I was experiencing with that video. So hopefully by next week, I'll be able to share that video with you that was sent to me by my dear friend, Lovey Clemens. And I'm not even going to tell you really what it's about, but trust me, you will not like it. And it is also to bring us into further awareness of what the enemy is endeavoring to do. Pray is what many have said, and I agree. But the issue is we're praying amiss. We aren't praying strategically. We aren't targeting our prayers. We are not moving beyond request and petition. We need to be educated as it pertains to the nuances of prayer, as it pertains to the various realms and spheres of prayer. And so we need pray about this agenda, but you cannot pray effectively void of information. Someone hashtag that. You can't pray, that's a long hashtag, but you can't pray effectively void of information. You can't pray effectively void of information. Hence, James said, we pray amiss. You're missing the subject. You're missing the target. You're missing the agenda. You're missing what you need to focus on, what you need to press or push back on. You're missing what it is that you need to penetrate, and you need to hit, and you need to dismantle, and you need to destroy, and you need to tear down. We're praying amiss because we are not, we are void of the information that's needed as it pertains to our enemy, as it pertains to our enemy's objectives, as it pertains to our enemy's tactics, as it pertains to what is in our enemy's arsenal that they are using against us. We are ignorant in so many areas as it pertains not only to this particular subject matter of pedophilia, but in many others. And so God is tired, hear me prophetically, he's frustrated with the ignorance of his people as it pertains to us desiring to remain ignorant. And as I said before, things seem to be off limits to you. Things seem to be impossible for you until it happens, until it's your child that's targeted, until it's someone that you are responsible for as it pertains to the guardian thereof. And so let's jump into this. Why children don't tell. Now, this is where we left off on last week. And so again, I admonish you to go back and watch last week so you can be caught up with all that we covered on that broadcast. But right now, I want to go through these reasons as it pertains to why children don't tell, as it pertains to molestation, as it pertains to sexual abuse. Okay. And again, we're dealing with pedophile facts and statistics. And we're not dealing with facts specifically regarding the pedophile. We're addressing facts as it pertains to the overall subject matter, as it pertains to the victim as well as the victimizer and or the predator. So the first one, ambivalent feelings towards the offender. Ambivalent feelings towards the offender. In other words, the victim is confused because, as we shared with you last week, statistics show that predators are normally individuals that the family knows, that the victim knows, and sometimes the predator is a family member. Sometimes the predator is a coach. It is a teacher. And so the child has developed some type of affection, some type of relationship with, in most cases, the predator. And so even though, depending on the age of the child, the maturity of the child, the cognitive development of the child, they know that what they're engaged in with the individual is a violation of their bodies. But however, because they have developed a relationship with the individual, they have ambivalent feelings. Are y'all following with me? They're confused because a part of them loves the person, a part of them may be convinced that they are in love, and the other part of them understands that this is wrong, this is inappropriate behavior, and so they are in a quandary. They are torn between telling and keeping it going. And so that's reason number one why children don't tell. The second, not understanding that they have been abused. There are some that don't understand that the behavior that they are engaged in with said individual is abusive, that it is inappropriate, that it is abnormal. The third, fear of the consequences. Fear of the consequences. How many of you may know of individuals or may have been the individual in a situation where you were abused by a husband, you were abused by a boyfriend, or even a girlfriend? I know we don't talk about it, and or we think that it doesn't happen to men, but men are sexually abused as well, and not only by other men. women sexually abuse men. Women abuse men. The statistics are not as high for women abusers as they are for men abusers, but it does happen. It does happen. I remember as a child, I remember very vividly witnessing, I should say, not experiencing, but witnessing an abusive relationship where the wife was the abuser of the husband. And it was an horrific circumstance and horrific situation. But my point, and I don't want to belabor this because we have a lot to cover tonight, but my point is that the victim fears the consequence. And that's why there are, in most cases, women, they are fearful to leave the abusive relationship because their lives are threatened. It's the consequence that restricts. It's the consequence, or the fear, I should say, the fear of the consequence that restricts and that incarcerates and that confines the individual. And they tolerate the abuse, thinking that the abuse somehow is better than the consequence. And so that's the third reason. The fourth reason, feelings of shame and guilt. We're dealing with pedophile statistics and facts. Statistics, not particularly, I can't talk in regards to pronouncing that word. We're not dealing with statistics solely regarding the predator, the pedophile. We're dealing with the statistics as it pertains to both victim and victimizer. Right now, we're dealing with statistics as it pertains to the victim, as it pertains to the abuse. So feelings of shame or guilt is why children don't tell. Fear of not being believed. Now, we hit this a little bit on last week. This is a big one. This is a big one. And remember, if you were with me, I shared with you that if a child comes to you, whether it's your child, whether it's the child of a friend, because in some instances, children who do build enough courage and boldness to tell don't always tell their parent and or their guardian. Sometimes they go to another adult that they are close to and or that they trust. Could be an uncle, could be an aunt, could be a teacher, all right? A coach, someone that they trust. But when the information is relayed to you, when you are brought into this unfortunate reality that that your child or a child that you know of is abused, and they tell you this, don't jump into offensive mode. Don't jump right to, well, that's not possible, especially if they tell you who the abuser is. You need to listen first and foremost, not just hear the child, but listen to the child. Allow the child to express their feelings, their emotions without judgment, without you becoming irate and hysterical. I understand, of course, as a parent in their right mind would be upset in regards to what has occurred to their child, but you need to control your emotions because the child is already experiencing a gambit of emotions, and you don't want to trigger, you don't want to, by you being emotional, by you, I don't want to say overreacting, but by you allowing your emotions to lead and to dictate your reactions, you don't want that to cause further fear, cause further confusion. You don't want to upset the child further. All right. Are y'all following with me tonight? I know this has been a heavy subject for the past 5 weeks, but are y'all following me? All right. The next, not wanting to burden the family, lack of vocabulary. Some children don't know how to express. They don't know how to articulate what has happened, what's happening sexually with them that's inappropriate. And then lastly, some children try to tell, but we don't recognize their cry for help. Now, this is also a crucial one as well, that they try to tell. Now, what we need to understand in this point is that obviously they're endeavoring to tell not verbally, but maybe through behavior, acting out. And so as parents and as guardians, especially if misbehaving is not the pattern of your child, when your child does begin to misbehave and or they begin to display a action, a behavior, an attitude that is not their norm, you need to investigate that. Don't dismiss it. Don't say, well, listen, he now he's acting like his daddy. He was doing good for the past 8 years, and now when he turned 9, all of a sudden he activated his father's can't act right genes. No. You need to investigate. Are y'all flowing with me? You need to investigate the change of behavior, the change of disposition, the change of attitude that a child expresses, because they may very well be endeavoring to tell you that there is a crisis that they're in the middle of. They might be, through their misbehaving, through their acting out, through slamming doors, through talking back, through lashing out at other children. If that's not their normal behavior, don't dismiss it and don't assume that you know what it is. Investigate and have conversation with your child and or the child. All right, now let's move further into other statistics. There are over 42 million adult sexual abuse survivors in the US. Now that's a high number. 42 million adults who once were abused rather. They were victims. Over 42 million adult sexual abuse survivors we have in the US. Think about that. 42 million so far. People that have survived sexual abuse. Males make up anywhere between 80% and 90% of all sex offenders. But we touched slightly on this last week. 80 to 90%. So with 80, there's a 20%, that's women. With the 90, there's a 10% women. So all sexual offenders aren't men. Unfortunately, the statistics are higher among men being offenders, but women are also. And I want to make sure that you understand that, because, we have the tendency to convince ourselves that because a person is female and or they may be small in stature, that they don't have other ways to manipulate a child into a sexual act. You don't need force always, because y'all, please go back if you weren't with me on last week, because we touched on this. It was very, very informative, because remember, we talked about last week how the predator, they develop trust. They don't force initially themselves on a child. They don't expose right off their intention to sexually abuse a child, but they develop trust with that child. They develop confidence. They what's the word? Groom. That's the word. Remember, we talked about that. That was actually the last slide that we left off, a couple of slides last week. They groom the child for predatory involvement. They groom the child for pedophilia. So don't assume, oh, well, I think John is lying about what he said as it pertains to his teacher touching him inappropriately because she's a nice person and she's sweet and all that. She may be sweet and nice in your presence. See? So listen to your children. The next point, statistic wise, girls are 2 to 3 times more likely to be molested. Children with disabilities are almost 3 times more likely to suffer sexual assault. Prophet, why are you giving us these type of statistics? So you can be aware, so that you can be discerning, especially if you are a teacher working in the school system. You need to be discerning as it pertains to those children that you have charge and responsibility, charge over and responsibility for. And especially those whom are, as it says here, suffer disabilities, because in many instances, they are even more vulnerable and more susceptible and more at risk than other children that are whole physically and or mentally, because they can't defend themselves. In most instances, children with disabilities are even more defenseless than children without. All right. Released child molesters are listen to this, released child molesters are 4 times more likely to get rearrested for a sex crime. Now listen, the blood of Jesus can heal, can redeem, it regenerates. The blood makes new, hence we are born again. But listen, even if you are born again, this is Johnson talking, even if you are born again, but if you had a history of pedophilia, you won't be near my child and the children. It's just like a person that's a recovering alcoholic. You need to use wisdom. Now, I'm not saying that we be suspicious of individuals who claim to have had an encounter with Christ and whatever their former life of sin was, because the blood of Jesus can handle any and every type of sin. But what I am endeavoring to relay to you is there are individuals, hear me, lean in, there are individuals that have been arrested for this type of criminal activity, went to prison and quote unquote found a God, not Jesus Christ. And many of them, and this is also a statistic, many people who go to prison or even jail prior to prison, they find God and or they become a part of a religion. And many of them, I don't want to say many, but there are individuals that use religion and or having developed a relationship with Christ as a smokescreen, as a way out, or I should say a way to lessen the punishment, or a way to lessen their time. Are you following me? And so listen, the numbers don't lie, as they say. So released child molesters are 4 times more likely to get rearrested for a sex crime. So you just need to be discerning. You need to operate in wisdom. And let's not be so consumed with harmless as a dove, whereby we lack serpentine wisdom to detect harm that's being caused. There are around 500,000 active predators on the internet every day. So those of you whom are very lenient when it comes to your child's electronic activities, your child's extracurricular activities or your child's allowance on the computer, on the cell phone, you need to check your child's history on the computer. Go into that history on that cell phone. Go into the history on that tablet. Go into the history on that iPad and check to see what sites your children were on. Go and check and see what conversations they were engaged in, that they were a part of in the chat rooms. Look in their Facebook inboxes. Look in their Instagram, look in the DMs, in their DMs on Instagram. Are y'all listening to me? We need to be proactive versus reactive when it comes to this behavior and this hunt regarding our children. Now, I can't see all this on my screen here. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to read what's at the top here. All right. America's home to more than 42 million victims of child assault. Y'all excuse me. I couldn't read the first part of that because the system that I'm using has information over that. America's home to more than 42 million victims of child sexual assault. All right, now we're going to get into some meat, the meat of these statistics. Child sex abuse and sex offenses in general don't get reported to the relevant authorities. Adult retrospective studies, however, indicate that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men suffered sexual abuse before turning 18. Listen to that. Before turning 18, which translates into more than 42 million adult victims of child sexual abuse. To add another layer of protection, you can perform criminal records checks on people search sites for anyone who has contact with your children. Alternatively, you can search the sex offender registry for child sex offenders and other criminals who might live in proximity to your family or near the schools your children attend. All right. So we're getting into, again, the meat of these statistics, and to arm you and equip you so that you can be proactive as it pertains to the possibility of your child and or children that you may know of that are being sexually violated. All right. And so the information here is very pertinent because, and I don't want to spend too much time, but again, it says 1 in 4, 1 in 6, 1 in 4 women, 1 in 6 men suffer sexual abuse before turning 18. Now, why is that significant? Because, that's significant as it's significant because of the grooming. What I'm endeavoring to say, I lost my train of thought because there's so much that's flowing through my head here in regards to this. But what I was endeavoring to say is that before these children turn 18, they are abused. So the point that I was endeavoring to make is reiterating what I stated even tonight and last week, the importance of having conversation with your children, because before they are 18, they have been abused. We don't know how many times. And so remember, I shared with you that my mother drilled us when we came home from school, when we visited friends' houses, when we were involved in extracurricular activities during the summer. She always asked us, Has anyone touched you? Has there been any inappropriate interaction with you, not only by an adult, but by children? Because children, 1 in 4 women, 1 in 6 men are abused prior to 18. And so abused individuals who are normally abused become abusers. And we'll get into this. This is also in the progression of our slides of our lesson dealing with these statistics. And that is that because the child has been abused sexually, they become abusers. And many don't wait until they become of adult age to abuse. There are some children that as children, they are abusing other children. They are sexually abusing their peers. And so you need to inquire with your children, not only have they had any inappropriate interaction with adults, but also with other children. All right. So the second statistic that we're going to deal with, and at the bottom of the slides, I have the website so that you can go and do your own homework and your own study as it pertains to these statistics. And I'll also have these website links, or the links to these websites, on my website in a couple of days. Number 2, studies show 16% of all children between 12 and 17 have been sexually abused. 16%. Children who experience this type of abuse are known to develop low self-esteem, depression, a general feeling of worthlessness, and mistrust of adults. So if you begin to see these type of emotions display, these type of emotions arise and develop in your child, it could be because of some level, some type of abuse that's happening. Okay? So these are the telltale signs. Child molesters, statistics show they can become withdrawn and even suicidal if left untreated, and the trauma can affect them long into their adult life. Now, let me say this, because some of us, we have moved or had the tendency to move from spiritual to spooky to stupid. Just let that sink in. Some people have the tendency to move from spiritual to spooky to stupid. What are you talking about? What I'm saying is, when your child or a child comes to you and informs you of sexual abuse, sexual assault, and you who are spiritual, that's not the time for you to just go and going into tongues and talking about, well, we're just going to pray about it and I bind, do all that. But as you bind and as you pray, you need to pursue professional help for that child, because sexual assault, abuse in general, it damages the soul. All right. It destroys the soul of that child. And it takes more than prayer alone in order for there to be soul restoration, soul healing, soul curing. And so don't teeter-totter between spiritual, spooky, and stupid. Okay. Make sure that you do all that you can to ensure that child receives the proper medical professional help. And even you as the parent may need to seek equivalent treatment to help and to assist you in processing what has happened to your child. Because most parents whose child and or children were abused in some way, shape, or form, we're talking specifically sexually, some parents really didn't know. They really were oblivious to the stepmother abusing the child, oblivious to the husband, or to the wife, or to the uncle, to the aunt. There are some parents that they did not have the necessary tools to identify and to hone in on the signs as it pertains to their child being abused. And so when you do find out, there is blame, there is guilt that you deal with, that you're overwhelmed with. Parents beat themselves up saying, how could I not know? And things of that nature. So just ensure that you and the child receives the proper help that you need. All right. The third statistic: boys who are sexually abused are 5 times more likely to cause teen pregnancy. They are also 3 times as likely to have multiple sexual partners and twice as likely to have unprotected sex with their counterparts. Child sex abuse isn't limited to contact, and there are other examples of non-contact abuse. Are y'all hearing that? Are y'all hearing that? Child sex abuse isn't limited to contact. There are other examples of non-contact abuse, such as child pornography and voyeurism. Now, listen again to that first sentence. They are also boys. We're talking about boys. Boys who are sexually abused are 5 times more likely to cause teen pregnancy. They are also 3 times as likely to have multiple sexual partners, and twice as likely to have unprotected sex than their counterparts. What I want you to understand, or what I want you to see, is that based on the statistics, promiscuity being wild and or loose, sowing your royal oats, a young teenage boy that's sexually active, promiscuity at times can be the result of sexual abuse. It's not that they just woke up one day and said, I want to have sex with multiple partners and unprotected sex and see how many girls I could get pregnant. No, there are, based on the statistics, sometimes promiscuity, rather, there are, in some instances, promiscuity is the consequence and or the result of in this case, a teenage boy having been molested, having been sexually abused, and being introduced to sex and sexual activities at an inappropriate age. It planted the seed of promiscuity in them. So that's important and significant to keep in mind as we are rolling out this subject. All right. Number 4, between 80% and 90% of all pedophiles are male. Statistics on child predators show a massive gulf between the number of male and female predators. Around 40% of offenders of children under the age of 12 are about the same age or adolescent, according to sex offenders stats. Female pedophiles usually have a different set of motivating factors behind their abuse, and though they seem to target younger victims, they tend to be less concerned with their gender. More specifically, demographics of pedophiles are challenging to discern, given many of them appear as upstanding citizens and take great measure to avoid suspicion. If you recall, again, last week I showed that video, the intro video, and I might show it again next week if I can get things worked out technological wise. I may show that video again as it pertains to, there is not a particular look for pedophiles. There's not a particular look. All right. Number 5, about 30% of all sexual abuse victims are assaulted by family members. Did y'all hear that? Just because they're family members does not give them or should not give them an automatic pass to watch your children. God has given you as a parent stewardship over that child and or children. You, ma'am, you, sir, you, guardian, you, parent, are responsible. I'm talking to any and every type of parent, whether it's adopted, whether you're a grandmother raising, a grandfather, whether you're an uncle raising. If children are in your care, teacher, you are responsible. And so we cannot allow relationship and associations to be an automatic green light for them to be alone with your child and or your children. You need to do your homework as it pertains to every person that will in some way, shape, or form be left alone with your child, especially in this day and age, in this current day and age that we are living in now. All right, let me move. We only have a few more minutes, and I might be able to finish this up. I only got 5 slides left. So again, 30% of all sexual abuse victims, 30% of all sexual abuse victims are assaulted by a family member. Child molester statistics show that almost a third of all sexual abused children are victims of their own family members. For children under the age of 6, 50% of the abusers are someone in the family. For victims aged 12 to 17, the percentage drops to 23%. Stats also point to no tangible link between homosexuality and pedophilia, despite some assertions. Now, I hope you all, hopefully you're taking notes. I didn't admonish you at the beginning, but you should have gotten something to write with, a writing utensil, something to write on, so that you could write down these statistics, so that you could jot down these websites. And periodically, I'm trying to remember to remove my picture at the bottom so that you can see the websites. This particular one is screenandreveal.com, so that you can do your homework. Again, we are not promoting fear. This information, I'm not on this subject. I'm not having these series of broadcasts to push you into panic. No, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind, to be cerebral, to be cognitive, to be cognitive, consciously driven, not emotionally. Okay? All right. Next, number 6, girls are 2 to 3 times more likely to be molested than boys. Now, some of the statistics we're reiterating as it pertains to boys, or girls rather, being molested more than boys. We've already dealt with that, but I wanted you to see the specifics, the breakdown of the statistics. So in case someone is saying, well, Prophet, you already said that. Yes, but I didn't give you what I'm giving you now as it pertains to the breakdown of this particular statistic. In a review of 55 studies over the last 50 years to gain a deeper understanding of child molestation statistics, researchers found that 25% of girls were victims compared to 8% of boys. The report also found that rate of abuse in boys to be significantly higher than exhibited in the CSA research, citing the stigma attached to being a victim of molestation, underreporting of incidents, and unsubstantiated claims for the discrepancies in this data. These issues are just as common for pedophilia in the US. Now, that was a lot there, but hopefully you all are taking notes and taking screenshots. With more education and more accurate information, these abuses can be prevented not only in America, but also across the globe. Education is the main weapon in defense, used in defense and or defending yourself. You have to be educated as it pertains to the threat. You have to be educated as it pertains to the tools, as it pertains to the strategy, as it pertains to the agenda of your opponent. Okay? So we can't any longer, because of how this particular subject may make you uncomfortable, keep you from being informed. Number 7, children with disabilities are 29 times more susceptible to sexual assault. Child predator statistics clearly show a trend toward the sexual abuse of disabled children. After a thorough meta-analysis of studies pertaining to the victimization of children with physical or mental disabilities, researchers concluded that they are almost 3 times more likely to be sexually abused. We did talk about that in a few slides prior, but again, I'm honing in on some statistics for you. In fact, children with mental and intellectual shortcomings, listen to this, are as much as 4.6 times more likely to be sexually abused than their peers with no disability. All right. Number 8, and we're wrapping it up. Child sex offenders are 4 times more likely to be rearrested. We already talked about that, but here is some meat. Pedophile statistics surrounding recidivism vary because of differing definitions, but child molesters typically have higher recidivism rates. Of the released child sex offenders who commit a new sex crime, as many as 40% did so in the first year following the release, and the majority of their victims were children aged 13 and younger. All right. 500,000 child predators online every day. Children between the ages of 12 and 15 are the group most targeted by online predators. The FBI has found that they account for over 50% of the victims. 50% of the victims are within that age bracket of 12 and 15. And again, some of these statistics we already addressed, but I'm giving you specifics as it pertains to the numbers. Online predators statistics show that 89% of these interactions take place on the internet. 89% of the interaction takes place on the internet and in chat rooms and in private messages. Remember, I told you, you need to be checking your children's inboxes, because 89% of the grooming process takes place, because we are in a technological age. We're in a digital age. During my childhood, I remember when the computers were just evolving, okay? AOL had just came out and things of that nature. But in my generation, in order for pedophiles to target children, they had to do it in person in order to groom. But now, because of the technological age that we're in, 89%, are y'all seeing this? 89% of these interactions take place on the internet in chat rooms. So 89% of the grooming is done in some cases before the person, if they don't know the child, or even if they know the child, they use technology and they use the internet to develop a a facade or to develop an alias to approach them incognito, as it were. While most pedophiles make efforts to mask their deviant behavior and present themselves as upstanding citizens, it's worth running social media background checks on potential applicants if you are an employer based in a child safety zone, et cetera, et cetera. All right. I just wanted to pull that meat out. And our last slide, the sources. So for those of you that are still with me, you can take a screenshot of this. These are all of the companies, all of the websites that I use to compile this particular slide or this particular subject matter regarding pedophile statistics and facts. So the sources: the Children's Assessment Center, BJ's, I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but you can just type it in Google. National Center for Victims of Crime, Race, Darkness to Light, Walden University, Vera Institute of Justice, Stop Child Predators, Child Crime Prevention and Safety, Child Crime Prevention and Safety Center, BBC, and The Week. Those are all of the sources that I utilize to compile the past 2 weeks teaching and broadcast on pedophile statistics and facts. Again, this is to bring awareness. This is to provide us with the proper information so that we can be properly educated, so that when we do enter into prayer and intercession, we're specific, we're detailed, we're strategic, and we know the areas to target as it pertains to this agenda to normalize pedophilia. We're not just, as Paul talked about, beating the air, but we are hitting with intent. We are fighting intentionally, and we are fighting not only intentionally, but we're fighting intelligently. All right. And pray and cover your children. Pray and cover your grandchildren, whether you can, if you can, physically lay hands on them and plead the blood of Jesus over their lives physically, do it. But if you can't, if you're geographically separated, there is no distance in prayer. All right. But again, I don't want us just, well, Lord, cover our children. No. That general type of prayer won't cut it in the era we are in. We have to be specific. The Word of God tells us that, period. All right. So we have to address these things specifically and head on. All right. I want to encourage you tonight to sow into this. I'm hitting areas, I'm targeting devils and coming after devils that many people are intimidated and afraid to target, dealing with subject matters that are taboo. But that's what prophets do. We are the defenders and the guardians of our King and his kingdom and the citizens thereof. But I want to encourage you tonight to sow if you are so led, and you can give in various ways. You can go online to ctjohnson.org and give securely via our website. You can mail in your seed address checks to CTJ Ministries, P.O. Box 225, Commerce City, Colorado 837. You can give via your cell phone by texting the phrase SOWSEED, all lowercase. You don't have to capitalize it. No spaces. SOWSEED to 54244. You can, of course, give via Cash App, $CTJ Ministries, or via PayPal, info@ctjohnson.org. That's the email address for you PayPal givers. All right. I want to encourage you one last time to share Share, 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 and again, share. Let's bless you, Sister Jody. We must push this information out so that parents and guardians, adults alike, can be informed, so that we can be wise as serpents, wise as serpents, wise as serpents, so that we can be discerning, not suspicious necessarily, but discerning. But again, we need to be properly educated so that when we pursue certain areas and aspects of the challenges that we're facing, we can pursue with intention and knowing that we will hit our target and be successful. All right. I love you. You all have a prosperous but progressive and productive rest of the week. And we'll be back next week. And we don't know as of yet if God is going to keep us in this vein or if we're going to move on to something else. However, you know it's going to be empowering. You know it's going to be thought-provoking, and you need to be with us. I want to end with a ministry update, and we will see you next week. Be empowered.
Hello, empowered thinker. It's Prophet Johnson with a ministry update. As you're aware, I've not sent out the word of empowerment audio text since July. The reason is that the Lord has restructured the vision for this particular aspect of the ministry mandate. The monthly empowerment texts have been about encouragement, motivation, and inspiration for the past year and a half. These are all excellent outcomes. However, this wasn't the Lord's intention for the text. So, since July, I've been listening intently to the Holy Spirit as He reacquainted me with His reasons, outcomes, and purposes for the empowerment text. He reminded me of what the word empower means. It's to inform, enlighten, and enable, which is what the empowered text is supposed to do where your thinking is concerned. As I state in my new book, Empower Your Thinking, Volume 1, a changed life is the consequence of an empowered mind. Hence, the purpose and assignment of your monthly texts are designed to inform, enlighten, and enable your consciousness to create ideas, inventions, and concepts to produce fruit for the master's use. On the first Wednesday of each month, you'll receive a word empowerment text centering on a specific word and its original meaning to provoke thought and conversation within yourself so that you may evolve into the version of self God designed and destined you to be. What's unique about words is that they possess creative ability and potencies. But what makes this so are the meanings and definitions ascribed. Releasing wrong, inappropriate comments about or over your life, situation, and circumstance can be highly detrimental. The monthly word of empowerment text for me will assist in aligning your speech, talk, utterances, sentences, and statements with the intentions and purposes of the Almighty. To become a part of the word empowerment movement, text the phrase empower me with no spaces to 54244. That's empower me with no spaces to 54244. And get ready to empower your thinking so that you can change your life. Join the word empowerment movement today. I love you. Be empowered. Thank you for tuning into Empowerment Monday with me, Prophet C.T. Johnson. Would you prayerfully consider partnering with C.T. Johnson Ministries International? Enable us to continue to declare truth and empower lives. Go to ctjohnson.org/partnership and sow your best seed today. I also invite you to like and follow the ministry's Facebook page at CT Johnson Ministries, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel, also CT Johnson Ministries. Remember to click the bell to receive notification of live broadcasts and newly uploaded content. For further information about the ministry, products, and the various services we offer, visit the website at ctjohnson.org. Until next time, be empowered.